Imagine surviving minus 20-degree Fahrenheit winters without touching a thermostat or paying a single utility bill. While modern homes scramble during power outages, Amish communities haven't just survived harsh winters for generations, they've mastered them. Their secret? 25 ingenious tricks that modern preppers are now desperately trying to rediscover, including a heating method so efficient it keeps homes warm for 90% less cost than your furnace. Heating with wood. Living off the grid means mastering the art of staying warm, and nobody does this better than the Amish. The secret to their success lies in the way they handle their firewood. When it comes to stacking, they've discovered that arranging logs in a herringbone pattern isn't just pretty to look at, it's actually genius. This pattern creates natural air tunnels that help dry the wood faster than traditional stacking methods. Think of it like giving your firewood its own little wind tunnel system. Here's something most people learn the hard way. Splitting logs when they're frozen is actually easier than splitting them in warmer weather. The moisture inside the wood freezes, making the fibers more brittle and prone to splitting cleanly. It's like trying to break a chocolate bar. It snaps much better when it's cold. For optimal results, they've found that seasoning wood for exactly 9 months hits the sweet spot. Any less time and you'll be fighting with smoky fires that don't want to burn. Any more and you're just giving the wood time to rot. One crucial detail that's often overlooked is keeping the wood off the ground. The Amish use old pallets to create a 2-inch gap between the ground and the firewood. This simple trick prevents moisture from seeping up from the soil and ruining your winter fuel supply. As old Jake Miller from Lancaster County likes to say, wet wood is about as useful as a screen door on a submarine. This method has helped Amish communities maintain their wood supplies through countless harsh winters, ensuring they always have dry, ready-to-burn fuel when temperatures drop. Transportation without gas. Imagine navigating through a blinding snowstorm without relying on GPS or engine power. That's exactly what Amish communities have mastered over generations. Their horse-drawn transportation system isn't just about tradition. It's a carefully developed network of sustainable travel methods that work even in the harshest conditions. The clever design of their hitching posts includes built-in feed boxes, allowing horses to rest and refuel during long journeys without requiring separate equipment. One fascinating aspect of their transportation system is how they've trained their horses to follow fence lines during whiteout conditions. This natural navigation system works even when visibility drops to near zero, proving more reliable than modern technology in extreme weather. It's like having a 4-leg compass that never needs batteries. And speaking of sustainability, here's something that might surprise you. Horse manure isn't just waste. It's actually used to heat small greenhouses. Talk about a zero-waste system. Though everyone agrees it's best kept outside for obvious reasons. The maintenance of their wooden sleds showcases another brilliant innovation. Instead of relying on expensive commercial products, they use natural pine tar as a preservative. This traditional method actually doubles the lifespan of their sleds compared to modern treatments. The pine tar creates a protective barrier that's particularly effective in snowy conditions, and as one Amish craftsman joked, it's cheaper than buying a new sled every other winter, and it smells better too. This practical approach to transportation maintenance has allowed Amish communities to remain mobile and self-sufficient through countless winters, while keeping their carbon footprint virtually non-existent. Natural medicine cabinet. When winter illnesses strike, modern medicine cabinets might be stocked with manufactured remedies, but in Amish communities, nature provides everything needed for maintaining health through the cold months. The cornerstone of their winter wellness strategy is the humble elderberry bush. What's remarkable is that a single well-maintained bush can produce enough berries to make syrup for a family of 6 throughout the entire winter season. This isn't just folk medicine. Studies have shown that elderberry extract can reduce the duration of flu symptoms by up to 4 days. A lesser-known but equally valuable resource in their natural pharmacy is pine needles. Most people just see them as a nuisance to rake up, but they're actually packed with more vitamin C than oranges. During long winters when fresh fruit isn't readily available, this easily accessible source of vitamins becomes crucial. The Amish have long known what scientists are now confirming, that wild-harvested chaga mushrooms make an excellent immune-boosting tea. These fungi, often found growing on birch trees, contain some of the highest antioxidant levels in the natural world. Perhaps one of their most versatile medicinal plants is yarrow, which grows abundantly during summer months and can be dried for winter use. While modern households might reach for over-the-counter fever reducers, Amish families have relied on yarrow tea for generations to bring down high temperatures naturally. What's particularly interesting is how they've developed sophisticated drying and storage techniques to preserve these herbs at peak potency. As one Amish healer humorously noted, yarrow grows like crazy in summer. Nature's way of making sure we have enough medicine to get through winter without having to trek to the pharmacy in a blizzard. This sustainable approach to healthcare not only keeps their communities healthy, but also maintains their independence from modern medical infrastructure. Straw foot warmers. Ever wonder how people stayed warm before fancy heated boots were invented? The answer might surprise you: straw. It sounds strange, but stuffing straw in boots is an age-old Amish trick that really works. Think about it. Straw naturally traps air pockets, creating an insulation layer that keeps warmth in and cold out. The only product we'll ever promote on our channel is a book by Claude Davis, a veteran prepper, about 126 superfoods and preservation methods from crisis times like the Great Depression and wartime that are impossible to find elsewhere. We decided to promote his book because we are the last generation able to share these techniques and superfoods to our children or grandchildren. It would be a shame to see this information about highly nutritious foods and preservation methods to survive crises disappear. You can also find a book about herbal remedies from Nicole Apelian on their store. If you're watching this on TV, you can look up our channel, Frugal Solutions, on your phone or tablet and find the books by clicking the link in our channel description or any other video description. It's the same principle that keeps animals warm in barns during winter, and if it works for horses in sub-zero temperatures, you better believe it works for people too. The science behind this simple solution is fascinating. When properly packed, straw creates thousands of tiny air pockets that act as natural insulation. But the Amish didn't stop at straw. They also pioneered the use of wool felt insoles. These dense wool layers are particularly effective because wool maintains its insulating properties even when damp, unlike synthetic materials that lose effectiveness once wet. As one Amish farmer likes to say, "Cold feet make for a cold everything else, but warm feet make winter feel like a mild inconvenience." What's particularly clever about this system is its sustainability. Straw is readily available after harvest season and can be easily replaced when needed. For those who prefer a more permanent solution, wool felt insoles last an entire season and can be made from local sheep's wool. The Amish have found that layering these materials using both straw and wool inserts creates an insulation system that rivals modern heated boots, all without requiring any electricity or batteries. The best part? When the straw gets compressed or damp, you simply replace it with fresh straw, costing nothing but a trip to the barn. Traditional weather predicting. Modern meteorologists rely on sophisticated satellites and computer models, but traditional Amish communities have developed remarkably accurate weather prediction methods that don't require any technology at all. Take the humble squirrel, for instance. When these bushy-tailed forecasters start gathering extra nuts earlier than usual, it's a reliable signal that a harsh winter is on the way. This isn't just folklore. Studies have shown that animals can detect subtle environmental changes that often precede severe weather patterns. The cornfields tell their own story too. Thicker than normal corn husks aren't just a random occurrence. They're nature's way of protecting the crop from an unusually cold winter ahead. This natural adaptation has been observed and documented by Amish farmers for generations. Perhaps one of the most intriguing methods is the August fog counting system, where each foggy morning in August corresponds to a snowy day in the upcoming winter. While it might sound like an old wives' tale, this method has shown surprising accuracy in predicting winter weather patterns across many regions. But here's where it gets really interesting: the connection between sourdough and storms. Many Amish bakers have noticed that their sourdough starter behaves differently before weather changes. The wild yeast in sourdough is sensitive to barometric pressure changes, often rising differently when a storm is approaching. As one Amish grandmother put it, "My sourdough knows about the storm before the clouds do. It's been warning me about bad weather since 1982, and it hasn't been wrong yet." This natural barometer, passed down through generations, demonstrates how closely connected traditional communities are to the subtle rhythms of nature. Tapping trees for maple syrup. The transformation of simple tree sap into liquid gold is one of nature's most remarkable processes, and nobody understands this better than Amish syrup makers. When late winter arrives and temperatures start cycling between freezing nights and above freezing days, the maple trees begin their annual sugar production. A single healthy maple tree can produce an astounding 5 to 15 gallons of sap in just one season, though it takes about 40 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of syrup. The process begins with identifying the right trees and timing the tapping perfectly. Amish syrup producers have developed an almost sixth sense for when to start tapping, reading subtle signs in nature that signal the sap is ready to flow. The traditional method uses hand-drilled holes and wooden spouts, allowing the sap to drip slowly into covered buckets. This gentle harvesting method actually causes less stress to the trees than modern vacuum systems, allowing the same trees to be tapped year after year for generations. What makes Amish maple syrup particularly special is the wood-fired evaporation process. Using carefully maintained fire pits and massive evaporation pans, they boil down the sap using renewable wood heat. The slow reduction over wood fire imparts subtle flavors that you just can't get from modern gas-fired operations. As one Amish syrup maker joked, "Store-bought syrup is like drinking maple-flavored water. Once you've tasted the real thing, there's no going back." This natural sweetener becomes a precious resource during winter months, used not just for pancakes, but as an all-purpose sweetener in cooking and preserving. The result is a product that not only tastes better, but also maintains a connection to traditional, sustainable production methods. Wool hand warmers. Science has proven what the Amish have known for generations. Mittens are actually warmer than gloves. The reason is simple but fascinating. When your fingers stay together, they share body heat instead of each finger trying to stay warm on its own. Think of it like penguins huddling together in Antarctica. There's strength and warmth in numbers. Hand-knitted wool mittens have become a cornerstone of winter survival in Amish communities, where staying warm isn't just about comfort, it's about being able to continue working outdoors even in bitter cold. What makes these traditional mittens special isn't just their design, but the materials and techniques used to create them. Raw wool contains lanolin, a natural water-resistant oil that helps keep moisture out while trapping warmth in. When properly processed and knitted, these mittens create thousands of tiny air pockets that act as natural insulation. But here's where Amish ingenuity really shines. They've developed a clever trick of slipping a small, fire-warmed rock inside the mitten for extra warmth. As one Amish craftsperson quipped, "It's like carrying a tiny fireplace in your pocket." The construction of these mittens follows a specific pattern that's been refined over generations. The cuff is knitted extra long to tuck into coat sleeves, preventing any cold air from sneaking in. The palm area is reinforced with an extra layer of wool for durability, and the thumb is positioned at a specific angle that allows for maximum dexterity while working. Some families even incorporate specific patterns into their mittens that serve as a kind of signature. You can tell who made the mittens just by looking at the design. These aren't just winter accessories, they're a perfect example of how traditional knowledge can outperform modern solutions. Rug wall insulation. The practice of hanging thick rugs on walls might seem unusual to modern eyes, but this traditional Amish technique transforms homes into cozy havens during the coldest months. While modern houses rely on expensive synthetic insulation hidden behind drywall, Amish communities have discovered that hanging wool rugs and quilts on walls can reduce heat loss by up to 25% in older buildings. It's like wrapping your entire house in a warm, decorative blanket. These wall hangings serve multiple purposes beyond just insulation. In homes with thin walls or drafty corners, strategically placed rugs can block cold air currents that make rooms uncomfortable. The thick woven materials create an additional barrier against wind and moisture, while also adding a layer of sound insulation that makes indoor spaces feel more intimate and peaceful. As one Amish homemaker noted with a smile, Our walls aren't just warm, they tell stories too. The technique requires careful consideration of rug placement and hanging methods. Heavier rugs are typically hung on north-facing walls where cold winds hit hardest. Special attention is paid to corners and areas around windows where heat loss is most common. The rugs are hung slightly away from the wall, creating a small air gap that enhances their insulating properties. This gap acts like the space between window panes in modern double-glazed windows, providing an extra buffer against the cold. The result is a home that stays warmer using less fuel, while also creating an atmosphere that modern interior designers try to replicate with expensive Higa accessories. Ash fire banking. When temperatures plummet and staying warm becomes a matter of survival, the ability to maintain a continuous fire becomes crucial. In Amish communities, the art of keeping a fire alive overnight has been perfected through a technique that's both simple and ingenious. Instead of letting the fire die out and starting fresh each morning, a process that wastes both time and resources, they use wood ash to preserve hot coals overnight. This method has been calculated to save up to 30% of the wood typically needed for winter heating. The process begins with building up a good bed of coals during the evening. As bedtime approaches, rather than banking the fire in the usual way, a thick layer of wood ash is carefully spread over the hot coals. The ash acts like a blanket, allowing just enough oxygen to keep the coals smoldering while preventing them from burning too quickly. What's particularly clever about this system is that the ash itself becomes an insulator. The more you use your stove, the more ash you have available for this purpose. In the morning, instead of starting from scratch with kindling and paper, you simply rake back the ash to reveal the still glowing coals underneath. It's like having a pilot light for your wood stove. As one Amish elder humorously puts it, why waste time making fire when you can just keep the old one going? It's like having a pet. Feed it right, and it'll stay with you. This technique not only saves time and resources, but also provides more consistent heat throughout the night. The steady, low heat maintained under the ash helps prevent the dramatic temperature drops that often occur in the early morning hours, making it easier to keep living spaces comfortable around the clock. Cold weather clothing. The art of staying warm isn't just about having thick clothes, it's about having smart clothes. In Amish communities, winter clothing is engineered with remarkable precision, combining traditional knowledge with practical innovation. Take their hand-stitched quilted vests, for instance. These aren't your ordinary vests. Testing has shown they're actually 40% warmer than their store-bought counterparts, thanks to carefully layered wool batting and strategic stitching patterns that trap heat close to the body. One of the most innovative techniques comes from an old grandfather's design for windproof mittens made from leather scraps. The secret lies in the overlapping leather pieces that create a natural wind barrier while maintaining flexibility. These mittens have proven so effective that even modern outdoor gear companies have started mimicking the design, though they'll never admit where the inspiration came from. As one Amish craftsman joked, sometimes the old ways are the best ways. We just didn't have a marketing department to tell everyone about it. Perhaps the most surprising trick in their winter clothing arsenal is the newspaper boot liner. It might sound strange, but layers of newspaper inside boots provide remarkable insulation. The key is changing the paper twice daily to prevent moisture buildup. This simple technique has kept generations of feet warm through brutal winters. For waterproofing, they've developed a unique method of dipping wool socks in melted beeswax, creating a natural, breathable barrier that keeps feet dry without the need for synthetic materials. The result is a complete winter clothing system that outperforms modern gear while remaining sustainable and repairable. Wrapping pipes in sheep's wool to prevent freezing. When temperatures drop below freezing, modern homeowners often panic about burst pipes, rushing to hardware stores for expensive foam insulation. Meanwhile, Amish communities have been using a superior solution for generations: raw sheep's wool. This natural material has proven itself more effective than synthetic alternatives, especially in preventing freeze damage to well pumps and exposed water lines.